whole point of inner child work is that you're coming into your body, because that's where your wounds, your challenges, your past unprocessed feelings are. They're still in your body. And if we're going into our heads to go, hold on, is that my protector? Oh, wait, no, I think that might be my inner child. And like getting confused. You're in your head, right? That's not helpful. We want to be getting into our body. So where the inner child is important is because she can hijack us. Why would she hijack us? Because she doesn't feel safe. She needs to be in control. What makes her feel out of control? Whatever is going on around you that reminds her in some way of an event that she lived through that's not yet processed.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. How many times have you, come across a Facebook post, an article, an Instagram reel telling you, okay, try these things and your kids will listen. And you're like, okay, cool, I got this. And then you try it, or you attempt to try it, and it doesn't work, and then you fly off the handle because you're so frustrated over handling the same issue over and over again, not seeing any progress. I know I've definitely been there. I've definitely gotten to the point where I'm parenting in the way where I swore I would never, right? I'm like, no, I'm going to be that calm, cool, collected, fun parent. And then in the moment, it's like, I'm just exactly who I didn't want to be, right? An angry mom. And today I brought on a guest who will help us with that, because this kind of stuff is so common. So you're not alone. Okay. It's so common. I'm sure if you asked your friends and you had an honest conversation about it, they'd tell you, yeah, I do that too. And that doesn't mean that we have to continue doing things this way. There is a way through this. And so we're going to be talking about this with my guest here, Lavinia Brown. She is a psychodynamic coach for moms. And we're going to be talking about inner child healing and how that relates to your goal and how you can get there. Okay. So Lavinia, for those who are new to you, can you please share with them where you live, how old your kids are, and what led you to want to coach moms and help them with parenting?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I'm excited to share what hopefully is going to be helpful and practical and easy for those mums out there that are struggling. So my name's Lavinia. I have 3 kids. They are now 16, 14, and 12. I have 2 girls and a little boy. And I live in England, but my clients are from everywhere, actually, like you name it. I've got a mental map of all the places that people have contacted me from, because this is exactly what you said. It's a global issue. We all suffer from this, or at least most of us do, if we're being honest, like you said. Mm-hmm. And the reason I got into this was because I was struggling. I mean, really, really struggling. I was struggling so much that I didn't want to be here. I felt that my kids were being traumatized so badly, and that I was such a toxic influence on them that it would be better if I wasn't around. It'd be better if it was just my partner. So that's how low I got. Probably didn't help that I had 3 kids in 3 years, which I thought was a good idea at the time. But I think I was just massively overwhelmed as well. I just couldn't cope. And I came across eventually, I mean, this wasn't until the kids were 5, 3, and 1. So I was a pretty, inverted commas, bad mum for 5 years. I eventually came across inner child work, which linked my childhood with how I was showing up. And a light bulb went off. No one had ever asked me about my own childhood. And I've been doing inner work for nearly 30 years. I mean, for a long time, I was trying everything under the sun. You name it, I've tried it. But it wasn't until the concept of the inner child came across my radar that suddenly it made sense. How, because everyone else I'd seen had just kept saying, you just need to love yourself. You just need to love yourself. And I was like, I don't even like myself, let alone love myself. So how? Sure. You tell me how. Let me know how and I'll try that. No one could ever tell me how. And I didn't know how to do it because of my childhood. So when the inner child came along and it was like, oh, okay, maybe I can try this. I can try receiving love from an inner parent because I've never had that before. That I could try. And I tried it and it changed my world. So that's how I got into it, because I was struggling. And the one thing that worked for me was this. And I'm the kind of person that, when I go to a restaurant, movie, and I like it, or read a book, I'm like, oh my God, you have to read this, or you have to listen to it. I can't not share. So when I came across this, I was like, I have to tell everyone, every single mom that's struggling, they need to know about this. And here I am.
Absolutely. Yeah.
11 years later.
That's amazing. I love that. It's so true. I think next to nervous system work, inner child work is so essential for our own internal happiness. Like, I can so relate to people just saying, oh, just love yourself, be kinder to yourself. It's like, how do you do that? I can say I love myself, but like, there's a lot of inner work that needs to happen, self-acceptance, reflecting, which none of that has been modeled to me growing up. Like, especially I have like immigrant parents, like they didn't have the luxury to do any of that. It was all about working hard and providing for the family, and that's it, right? That is it. And so having the luxury of in space and capacity to do this work is incredible, because it's life changing, your life, everyone around you, because you just show up differently, right? I feel like for those who don't do this work, they kind of just walk around with like carrying a lot of shame and guilt. And also, the loud voices that we have in our head from our parents criticizing us or other people criticizing us that we're just walking around with. There's this like famous art installation that was put up for Burning Man one year. Burning Man's like this event that's held in California every year. And it was like the silhouette of an adult, and then inside was like a little kid. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what it is. We're all just big physical things with an inner child that's like driving us, right? It's kind of like that movie Inside Out, but like a little person that has wounds and things. So let's kind of like peel back the layers for those who are maybe a little newer to this, or maybe haven't heard of this at all. So how would you share with people who are new to this concept what inner child work is? Or even what's an inner child?
Absolutely. And I want to just circle back to something you said earlier. You said, along with nervous system regulation, this is a really important tool. It is nervous system regulation. It is that. So it's so many things in one. That's why I just rave about it so much. You can't feel if your inner child feels safe, you feel safe. Your system is regulated. It's that simple. So for me, I really believe it's at the core of everything. So who is your inner child? Your inner child is the energy that you carry, whatever your age of who you were when you were a child. We also have an inner teenager, inner young adult, but I kind of lump them under one. But some people say, oh, is it like internal family systems? Yes, I guess. But personally, I find that way too complicated. The whole point of inner child work is that you're coming into your body, because that's where your wounds, your challenges, your past unprocessed feelings are. They're still in your body. And if we're going into our heads to go, hold on, is that my protector? Oh, wait, no, I think that might be my inner child. And like getting confused. You're in your head, right? That's not helpful. We want to be getting into our body. So I just say inner child. So where the inner child is important is because she can hijack us. Why would she hijack us? Because she doesn't feel safe. She needs to be in control. What makes her feel out of control? Whatever is going on around you, adult you, that reminds her in some way, it's not always a direct link, but something that reminds her in some way of an event that she lived through that's not yet processed. So what that means is when she was little, I'll give you a very simple example, which sounds silly, inverted commas, but it's not, because we've got to remember not to put our adult glasses on when we're looking back at the past. Something that may seem silly now was a massive deal when you were 3 or 6. So, for example, not being allowed to wear the dress or the trousers that you wanted to wear to a party. For example, I worked through this exact example with a client of mine. So that if you didn't receive unconditional love from your parents, and therefore you didn't feel able to say, I really don't like that dress. Please, can I not wear that dress? I really feel comfortable in these ones. That one's really scratchy and I just don't feel comfortable. If you couldn't say that because you were scared that you'd be sent to your room, told you were ungrateful, dismissed, belittled, shamed, criticized, whatever it is, if it didn't feel safe, you repressed that. So that's what you needed to do at the time. That was the biologically safe thing to do, because basically children need their parents to survive. So we will always, as children, prioritize attachment, safety, the safety of the family unit over authenticity, right? We can't go and live by ourselves when we're 4. So you as a child, if you didn't feel comfortable expressing your feelings, would have repressed them. That's the right thing to do. However, these feelings don't dissolve with time or something. They actually stay entirely intact. They're just in your body. So going back to why your child would hijack your adult self, if something happens in your adult life, for example, maybe it's your boss telling you you can't go for that promotion, or a friend dismisses your idea, which you thought was a really good one, or your husband or partner makes you feel stupid or invisible, or your children carry on fighting, they don't listen to you, then that could trigger up the same feelings that you felt when you couldn't wear what you wanted to wear. Because we don't always look at what the action or the event is, we look at how it makes you feel. And we're tracking, okay, feeling stupid, disrespected, invisible. If that's the same thing, then what happens? That part of you that couldn't wear the dress or the trousers gets activated, and these old stuck feelings come out. So you end up reacting like that 4, 5, 10, 12-year-old. So you're literally taken over by a younger part of you, which is why it can feel so out of control and a bit scary even. And it's why when you get past that and you've calmed down a bit, often we're like, oh my God, why did I just do that? Like, how did I react like that? That's insane. But in the moment, you weren't in your right mind because your prefrontal cortex was offline. We can't access it when we're in a trauma response, because that's actually what's happening. We're going into a trauma response. We didn't feel safe. And so that older limbic part of our brain gets activated, and we are reacting in the way that we should have reacted or we wanted to react when we were a child. So that's a very long answer, but hopefully explains that the inner child is still in you. The inner teenager is still in you, or at least the parts of her that haven't yet processed feelings. So that's what this work is about. It's about healing the wounds that we inherited. I am not lovable. I am stupid. I'm invisible. All of these kinds of labels that we adopt. It's about healing those so that part of us can't then take over our adult selves.
Yeah, the most fascinating thing that I learned when I first was introduced to inner child work was that the body doesn't work on a timeline like our mind does, right? The mind understands language, yesterday, today, tomorrow, next year, 5 years ago. But whatever happens in your body, it's like it's still there until you deal with it. And for generations, mental health was not taken seriously. It was like, oh, if you go see a therapist, there's something wrong with you. You're crazy. But I'm so glad that it's being more normalized to go get professional help, working with the coach, working with the therapist, working with a psychiatrist to support us, because there's so much in life, especially as a parent, that can really challenge your quality of life and like make you think you're going crazy, because it's a lot. It's a lot that we're dealing with. And I've been saying this a lot in recent podcast interviews with other guests, just like you, how, society is not set up for women to flourish, right? And so we are just carrying so much. It's a lot to raise kids. Like, it's difficult, it's challenging, right? They really are mirrors to us. And those triggers are those little reminders of areas that could use some love from you, from current day you. So that's what they mean by like reparenting yourself. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I love how you described that. Exactly. It's receiving love. The areas receiving love that didn't. And, I talked earlier about unconditional love. I mean, that it's a great concept, but it is actually quite hard, to be honest, especially if you've got more than one child, because what it means is you're totally accepting your children for who they are. You're meeting all of their needs, not just their survival needs. It's not an easy task. Bearing in mind, we now have extra tools. So if we don't, we can put in the repair. But our parents probably didn't know about repair. Many of them didn't acknowledge that they even had faults or limitations. Like you said earlier, it was more about, oh, well, I provided enough for you to go to a good school and we had nice food and you had a roof over your head. Done. That was their job done. But that's not enough. So the reparenting comes, and it's interesting that you said receiving the love from our adult selves. I do it slightly differently. I externalize the inner parent. So when I work with people, the inner parent is not you, because I find that, like you said, being a mum's overwhelming. If that's one more person you have to look after, like you've got your kids, you put your kids to bed, now you've got to put your inner child to bed. It's like, really? Like, I'm kind of done. If you've got an inner parent over there and you are receiving from them rather than having to give, because you give all day, most mums do, then I believe that makes it not only enjoyable, but it makes it much more accessible. So the inner parent is, albeit imaginary, and it can be an angel if you're religious, or Jesus, or God, or the universe, or it can be someone from a movie, like, I don't know, Nanny McPhee. One of my clients had Mrs. Worsley, is it Worsley from Harry Potter? What are they called, the
Oh,
twins?
Wells,
What, complete blank. Mrs.
Ron Weasley.
Weasley, there we go. Mrs. Weasley, it can be someone who you feel you can receive from. It can be an animal, like a spirit animal. Whatever it is that you feel calm around, that can give you that unconditional love that you didn't get as a child, that is reparenting. So if you didn't receive unconditional love as a child, that means that to a certain degree, the connection that you had with your parents wasn't fully secure. We can create that fully secure relationship, connection, attachment with an inner parent, which is kind of amazing. However bad your childhood was, it really doesn't matter. You can do this, which is really awesome. So that's what the inner parent is. The way I do it, again, she does two things, always two things. She meets you wherever you're at. So whether that's feeling happy, excited, sad, ashamed, guilty, angry, sad, whatever it is, your inner parent meets you there, and she normalizes that feeling. That bit's important, because I think many of us as children didn't have that. If we felt something, we were told it was wrong or not appropriate or embarrassing or whatever, right? Too much or not enough. So to be told by an inner parent that what you're feeling and the way that you're feeling it is completely okay. Of course you feel that way. Makes complete sense that you feel that way. That's very soothing in itself, just to have someone agreeing with you. It's like, okay, I'm not mad. I'm not crazy. I don't need to change. I'm enough. And then the second part is that she's there with you. Why is that important? Because most of us didn't have that. Again, we didn't really feel able to express our feelings. Maybe certain feelings were more allowed than others, but there were some that were off the table. So to have an inner parent there with you in your feeling, again, that's so comforting, and it makes us feel safe because we're not on our own, right? Which is what we're trying to do with our children. We're trying to co-regulate them through their big feelings so that they recognize that feelings rise, they peak, and then they go down, and then they've gone. But many of us didn't have that ourselves, so that's hard. The inner parent's doing exactly that. She's being with you, loving you patiently, kindly, until that feeling goes. And that's going back to the nervous regulation bit. So you mentioned the inner child in addition to nervous regulation. Yeah. So that's where I bring in the inner parent. The inner parent creates the safe, relaxed body, and the inner child is the part that does the emotional release. And obviously, you're kind of in your adult head masterminding this whole process. So the three components come together. And it's just worth saying, if you're not in a relaxed body, you're not releasing feelings. You're kind of attaching to them. So that bit's really important, which is why the inner parent is so, so, so important.
Yeah, I love that your take on that because I've never heard that before. I've always heard about you reparenting yourself, and how important that work is because until you can accept and navigate your feelings, you have no capacity to handle anyone else's, right? Because it's just re-triggering how it wasn't okay for us to express, right? Like I regularly heard when I cried, like stop crying. That's actually a very commonly used phrase in Cantonese. My family's from Hong Kong. Like they say, "Don't cry." Like if they see you crying, and it's meant to be comforting. But if you think about it, it's like, so you're asking me to repress for your comfort. This is no longer about me, right? And that's why we get triggered, is because we haven't been taught or familiarized or practiced to be comfortable with our own emotions outside of the widely accepted ones, right? Like joy, or situational sadness. But if we could just learn to be more comfortable, to validate our own emotions, we can have more capacity and stretch that capacity to be there with our kid who's having a meltdown.
Yeah.
It's
And you can feel
incredible.
safe enough to hold
Yes,
space.
that's right.
You can, there are two stages, like you pointed out earlier. You can heal the trigger, but the trigger has to be healed with the regulation. You have to know how to be in a safe body in order to be that safe adult for your child. If your child perceives that there's another child in the room, that's not going to work. They will they will ramp it up. So yeah, absolutely. I used to live in Hong Kong.
Did you? Oh, I
Yeah, for
miss
eight
it.
years. I miss it actually.
It's awesome.
But you're
Yeah, that's
right. I think many Asian cultures in particular, and also a certain class of English, the English are very stiff upper lip, very stoic.
mm-hmm.
Stoicism is a compliment.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's
So,
equated to like professionalism, proper.
yeah, proper, exactly. The higher up the
Mm-hmm.
social class system you are, the more stiff upper lip, the more poker face you are.
Yes.
Skeletons stay in cupboards. So,
Yes.
yeah, there are pockets of, I'd say, Southeast Asia, England, maybe more kind of Germanic countries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very, very anti show of emotions compared to
Yes.
places like where I also used to live, Spain, Southern Europe. It's
Oh,
much more out
full of
there.
passion.
It's interesting, actually. I'd love
Yes.
to kind of talk to someone about research. Like, what are there
Yeah.
any patterns? Like, is it linked to the weather, perhaps?
Oh,
When it's sunny and everyone's outside, I think people are naturally more relaxed in their bodies. When you're cold,
yeah. Yeah.
you're all hunched up. But it's interesting how certain cultures are very disciplinarian as well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I
Mm-hmm.
think the stoicism goes hand in hand with I'm the authority, you do what I say, and if you don't, you're probably
Yes.
going to get hit,
Yeah.
dismissed, rejected, whatever. It's very toxic. It's
It
so
is.
toxic for children.
It is. And, I recently interviewed someone who's in the space that works with Asian Americans who are kids of immigrants, and how different it is, where oftentimes Asian immigrant parents parented with disciplinary force. So, like spanking, yelling, threatening, whatever, right? And then they got what they wanted out of that, right? We would listen right away the first time because we were in fear of what would happen. And it reinforced that that was the correct way because it got them the result that they wanted. And now we're in the space where my generation on, we're like, well, I didn't like that. And I don't really have a close relationship with you. I don't have the kind of relationship with you that I want my kids to have with me. So I'm going to have to do things differently. But then we have to deal with the frustration of not having them listen right away because we've provided that level of safety for them to have a voice and be into what they want and be in their own world instead of like walking on eggshells, making sure we don't upset the parent.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
It's a really interesting
Oh, yeah. I get
shift.
worried when I see really well behaved children because that was me.
Yeah.
Parenting through fear. If I didn't, I'd get spanked.
Yeah.
And like proper spanked. In England, spanking means like proper spanking with a slip
Yep.
or a belt. Not, I think in
Yep.
America, it's like a tap on the bum, maybe sometimes. But yeah,
Oh, no.
corporal punishment for, again, for
Yep.
a certain stratum of society, which is ridiculous. Like, when does it even have anything to do with how much money you've got or your background? It doesn't make sense. But it's funny because we did a podcast episode last week on whether our leaders are traumatized children. And it is interesting looking at the types of people in England that then go on to become inverted commas leaders because they're all from broken backgrounds or boarding school or places that embraced corporate punishment. The more traumatized you are as a child, the more kind of institutionalized it's possible to make you, and therefore the more control people can have
Yes.
over you. So we have to change exactly what you said. But then
Yeah.
again, like you said, we don't want to do that. That was awful. We kind of want to try that, but we're still carrying the baggage that came with the way we were parented. So it's actually kind of impossible to embrace this new way
Without.
without doing a lot of inner work. I don't know if you
Yeah.
know Janet Lansbury, but
Yes. Love her.
yeah, I love her. She was recommended to me when my kids were small. And I thought, okay, fine, yeah, follow that. Backfired big time because I was trying so hard. Well, I didn't try for that long because I just couldn't do it. Tried so hard to put these parenting techniques into place and was failing so miserably. It just added to my shame and my
Yeah.
existing belief that I was rubbish, shouldn't have had kids, I'm toxic. So I had to unfollow her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I realized again, when I was helped to see that my childhood was affecting how I was showing up as a parent, which isn't always logical. You're kind of like, well, why? That's
No.
in the past. I don't think about my parents anymore. Why is that affecting me now? But it's not how you were parented, it's how that child was wounded. So, yeah, it's all about doing the healing work yourself. And then you can, by all means, do the parenting mindset work. But mindset work is the prefrontal cortex. And when you go into trauma response, it's offline. So you literally can't do one without the other. So if there's anyone out there, really want to underline that. If you're struggling to do Dr. Becky or Dr. Shafali or Janet Lansbury, all the people, then it's not necessarily your fault. There's probably some inner work that you need to do to heal your childhood and the beliefs that you adopted about yourself first. And I promise you it works because I can now follow parenting techniques because I'm not going into a trauma response.
Absolutely. And the same goes for your marriage. I always tell my clients, like, you can have all the tools in the world. I can give you all the scripts. I can tell you exactly what to say. But if you don't deal with your own stuff, it's not going to work because you're not going to be in the right mind to pull those tools to use them because you're going to be losing your mind. You're going to be so emotionally distraught. Like you said, that prefrontal cortex offline. When emotions are high, logic is low. You're not going to reach for that. You're not going to be like, oh, yeah, this is where I should use this.
Yeah.
You're going to think about that after and be like, dang, why didn't I do that? And you're just adding more shame to the situation.
Yeah.
So if you're like, okay, I've read all the books, I've read all the articles, I've watched all the videos, I've tried these things and they're not working for me, it's probably time to take a look at what's going on under the hood, right? And this is not to say that there's something wrong with you.
No.
We all have things that we need to deal with, right? We've all experienced things where we felt wronged as kids. That was our lived experience, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have horrible parents. They did their best with what they had. And yet the impact is still there. So like, let's face it and deal with what's here, because it will free up so much more capacity for you to be the kind of parent that you want to be.
Totally. I always describe the gap between what you wanted and what you got as being, I mean, it is actually attachment trauma. It's developmental trauma. People get freaked out by the word trauma, even though it's little t trauma, going, no, my parent, no, I love my parents. It was absolutely fine. I had a pony. I went on holidays. You're like, yeah, well, that's amazing. Great. I'm really glad that all that happened. But did you feel seen all the time? Did you feel heard all the time? Did you feel able to express whatever it was all the time? Like, for example, when you were really, really upset or really, really angry, did you go to your parents? Oh, okay. That's what we're talking about. Your parents, albeit with the right intentions, they weren't able to meet your needs in the way that you needed them to be met. Because in the end, you're different people. And I think, especially if you have more than one child, you see how hard that is, because each of your children has their own needs and you're you. So it's not easy to do that. So like you said, everyone will have a certain gap between what they need and what they got. And that's, I believe, your duty to explore, frankly, if you become a parent, because that gap is going to come out and bite you if you don't consciously go towards it.
Yeah, absolutely right. I love this so much. Okay, thank you so much for diving into all of this with us. I know that so many moms out there will benefit from listening to this episode, and I really hope that they start to explore what this means for them and what it can do for them, because like, I get it. This is not typically seen as work that's like exciting or fun, but it is so freeing once you do it. Okay, like it feels like a weight is truly lifted off you. And just like getting to celebrate those times where I'm like, wow, just a few years ago or 5 years ago or however long ago, I wouldn't have been able to sit through this with my child screaming at the top of their lungs, or, you know, quote unquote, talking back to me. I would have never been able to handle that without lashing out. But now I'm like, okay, well, I'm here, and be able to sit there and not feel like all the alarm bells in my body are going off and I need to yell or I need to run away or whatever it is. But I do want to mention that just because you do this work, it doesn't mean it won't come up again, right? This is not about like, oh, I'm going to be fully healed and I'll never, ever be triggered again.
Well, interesting. The way I look at it is that it doesn't mean you're never going to feel angry or shame or sadness again, but you're not going to feel disproportionate anger, sadness.
I love that distinction.
Right. So for me, and I want to just leave people with this because this is a really good tool to like start tapping in a very gentle way to what you might need to look at. So what is a trigger? A trigger is a disproportionate reaction. So if when your child, like you said, talks back to you or is defiant or doesn't want to comply or just says no, if that makes you feel like you need to hit them, throw something, scream, you want to get like manhandled, you want to say something mean, if you have that disproportionate reaction, because actually all they're doing is like, nah, I don't feel like that actually. They're saying what they feel. Then you know that there's something underneath that. Again, we don't necessarily track what happens. It could be that your parents spoke to you in that way, but more likely that your parents made you feel the same way that your child is making you feel. That's how we go back to the original wound, which we can heal through releasing the emotions with the inner parent, which creates a safe body. I believe that these wounds can't come back. They can't come back. Once you've healed a wound, it's
Healed.
healed. And unlike something like EMDR, which is fine, but I don't believe it's appropriate for attachment or developmental trauma, because it's more for something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's for a self-contained, probably big T trauma. Maybe you had a car crash or something. You can go through that event and heal it. Attachment trauma, when did it start? When you were born. When was the middle? When you were a teenager. When does it end? Kind of when you do this work. So it's very kind of amorphous. Yeah. So you can't really do EMDR unless you're prepared to do every single memory that was uncomfortable, which some people do. And they're like, yeah, I've been doing it for 2 years. I'm kind of like, there's a quicker way. There is a quick way. So EMDR can handle little, memories, but this work, when you're going down to the wound, which many, many memories triggered, then if you heal that wound, that is like a domino. It collapses all of the experiences and all of the memories that were to do with that wound. So it's much more efficient to do it that way. So back to your question, will you feel triggered again? No. Might you still feel annoyed when your child does that thing, is defiant? Yeah, it's really annoying. Sometimes it's rude. It's like, don't talk to me like that, please. Right. But you'll be able to say, I said, don't talk to me like that. It's not kind. You won't be like, oh my God, wanting to throw something.
Right.
But that's the difference. The wounds are healed forever, permanently, gone. Are you still going to feel a range of human emotions? Absolutely. Yeah. And then do you do a little bit of tweaking here and there for the rest of your life? Absolutely. But those tweaks they feel quite minor compared to the big wounds that you do with me or whichever person you're going to do it with. Because I believe that you need someone else. I did it with someone else. You need someone else to create the safety for little you to feel safe at the beginning, particularly if you've never felt safe before. Once you know how to feel safe and this heavy lifting has been done, your early years, you're absolutely fine to do it on your own. Yeah. And it's quite easy, actually.
Yeah. I think once you establish that connection with them, then it's like the door is just ready for you to go through if you ever want to.
Yeah. And actually, just going back to something you said about my inner parent being outside, over time, you may find that you become the inner parent. Mm-hmm. But I just think it's so much nicer at the beginning when you're like, what, I don't have to do something? What a break. Sure. I just have to lie there and receive. That feels just so much nicer. And there's something about someone else being there, which I believe really helps that wound of having felt alone as a child, especially women. My partner does exactly the same work with men. He doesn't have an inner parent.
Oh, that's awesome.
He does it that you are the inner parent. But I believe that women, we are so much more relational. We're so much more collaborative, co-creational, that we don't really want to do it on our own, right? So to have, again, an inner parent who's there doing it with you, I believe that's more effective.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, anything that will help ease the introduction into this kind of work, because it is so impactful in so many ways. Thank you so much for coming on to this show. Can you please share with the listeners where they can connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on social media. My handle is @theinnerchildhealingexpert. I post a lot of free content, so that's all there for everyone. And then my website, if you're looking for a little bit more support, I've got lots of self-led e-courses. I've got a community program. I obviously do one-to-one as well. So that's laviniabrown.com. And I have a podcast, which I do with my partner, which is us just talking about this stuff and how it might show up, how your inner child might hijack you, which is Becoming Untriggered.
I love it. All right, ladies, if you love this show, please go connect with her, okay? Go let her know you found her from this episode. Let her know that you are excited to connect with her, learn from her content. Go reach out to her if you are ready to take the next step to change how you feel as a mom, how you parent, and your relationship with your child or children. If you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share this with them. I know all parents out there can benefit from doing this type of work, okay? Better yet, share this in your Instagram stories and tag us so we can give you a shout out. If you love this show, thank you so much for being here and for being a listener. I so appreciate you listening in every week. Please consider leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's what helps this show grow and helps more people like you get the help that they need. And thank you again, Lavinia, for coming onto the show. I'll catch you all back here on the next episode. Bye. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.